What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. We have one of our home team episodes right now, and we are fired up to chat all things, probably fitness, some maybe lifestyle stuff. A good place to start, I think, would be a conversation I recently had. And I normally put very detailed notes in before our podcast, and Gabe knows this. And, we go over, when we have guests, we have very detailed notes of the things we want to discuss. But typically, yeah, we do, Gabe.
It's all false. All false.
No, we do.
Starting off on the wrong foot here.
No, it's all true. And then, but in this particular case, I did write down just back surgeon as one of the things I want to discuss because I think it's a really interesting topic. So around here in California, and I'm not quite sure how big this medical system is of Kaiser. I don't know what their depth is. I know that for sure they have quite a bit of locations here in California, but I don't know about elsewhere. Kaiser has a little bit of a different model where just the way Kaiser works compared to like a normal PPO and these other types of plans, it's just different. I don't know if you guys have like a clear way of describing that, but it's MDV, because you've used Kaiser in the past, haven't you? So is there a way to describe it, just because I think it's going to give color to what I'm about to share?
Yeah, I was just looking up whether or not Kaiser is exclusively in California, but it looks like they have Kaiser Permanente is essentially like an all-in-one network for your healthcare, right? So when you choose to go into a Kaiser plan for your healthcare, you can only exclusively work within the Kaiser network if you want your benefits to be covered under your plan. And then when you go outside of that, you're paying out of pocket or like super, super high for anything that's outside of just the Kaiser network. So like you have to see your primary care through Kaiser. They have specialists through Kaiser. They have mental health through Kaiser. You go through their system, essentially an all-in-one system to figure out all your healthcare needs. But they have locations. They're mainly in California, but it does say they have locations in Colorado, Georgia, Hawaii, and a few other places.
So the reason why I bring this up is I'm at a baseball game on Saturday night, and I'm talking to one of the dads there, and him and I just got riffing. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a doctor." I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm always intrigued by doctors. It's like in another life, I wish I was a doctor. And I was like, "What type of medical? What do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm a back surgeon." I was like, "Oh." I was like, well, now you got me really intrigued. And so when I said where, he said he was at Kaiser. And he goes, I was like, why did you choose Kaiser out of all the places you could have been a doctor at? He's like, Kaiser is by far the best place for me as a back surgeon to work at because I'm paid on salary and I have zero incentive to operate on anyone who doesn't actually need that particular surgery. Whereas other medical care facilities, doctors are incentivized and bonused and compensated based on how many surgeries they do. So if a patient goes there, subconsciously, consciously, name it, whatever, the system is built that they get paid more if they do more surgeries. And so I just thought that was a really interesting topic to bring up. And the one other thing that him and I were discussing was that I said, hey, out of all the people you operate on and whatever, what's one like common theme? He's like, dude, I'll tell you the truth. I've never had to do back surgery on someone who's like a yogi, ever. I've never in my life done back surgery on someone who practices yoga. And it just got me thinking about how fitness plays into the role and then how doctors are incentivized by that. And so I just thought I'd bring that up on the podcast because there's a lot to unpack there. And I'm sure that, Trevor, Gabe, might be a good person to bring back on and talk about that as well as all the other stuff that he wanted to talk about. So anyways, bringing it up.
Well, there's also with these, so Kaiser, yes, those doctors are paid on salary, but if you're out of a system like Kaiser and you're if you want to become like a entrepreneur through your practice, right? You can charge what you want. You can build your own practice. You can have your own set of circumstances around how you do business. I think that it's not just the fact that the incentives play into the favor of, oh, we're going to do surgery on as many people as we want to do, and we're going to give them all these unnecessary surgeries. There's advantages to not being in the Kaiser network if you wanted to grow a particular type of practice, or you had a way of doing things that you didn't want to conform to how Kaiser has you do things. So there's pros and cons for sure.
It's not all, by the way, like for full transparency, with Ava was treated at Stanford and with very specialists in oncology. And like, I think we did the right thing. So I'm just bringing it up as like an interesting talking point because I hadn't thought about it through the lens of like, if you're in a network, salaried versus paid per participation type of thing. It's different.
Yeah, it could be compared to like working for a big company versus working for your own small business or like building your own small business. There's comparisons there for sure.
All right.
It is fascinating that we can't just figure out how to make that whole system just work in general. Like I'm so uneducated on where to even start with the problem, but
healthcare in general.
Yeah, just healthcare in general, like how much we spend on it, how expensive everything is, like, insurance companies finding every which way to deny coverage for stuff. I mean, there's a reason that, this whole Luigi Mangione thing, right? Like popped off in pop culture, because clearly, and Andrew Schultz had a great point about this because you can say whatever you want to say about that and about obviously murder is terrible and all that. But he was just mentioning that like he's very interested in just how people react. And it should tell you something that there was this reaction of like a very lack of empathy that, this insurance company CEO was murdered. Like people in general feel like they're getting the short end of the stick with insurance, and how the system is created. And I have no idea how you would fix it, how you would start. I'm sure that someone much smarter than me, has an argument about why we do things the way that we do. But it is always, I guess, just fascinating that, for us being such a wealthy, well-educated, first world society that we can't seem to figure out this incredibly important thing. Just healthcare, it being affordable, the system working, not too much red tape, so on and so forth. And I know that there's a lot of benefits to the way the system is set up. And Jay, you're like a perfect example of it. Like there's like the US has the best specialist care. Like if you have something very specific that you need to treat, like the best doctors in the world are going to be here. That seems to be the pro. But the con is that like, you need just run of the mill, I don't know, a surgery or something. And it's like, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's expensive. The red tape, the insurance. So, yeah, man, it's luckily we haven't had any kind of like run in with the system, but man, I mean, you just hear everyone has a story of someone that just has terrible experience. And, yeah, it's a bummer. And I do know one thing I've heard too is the leading reason of bankruptcy in the US is healthcare expenses. Like it ruins a lot of people's lives. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that in several podcasts. It's a lot of people just get like completely financially destroyed because, something happens that you weren't expecting for. Insurance either doesn't cover the whole thing or denies coverage overall. Obviously it's an expense you have to pay. And yeah, it just like completely destroys people's lives.
Well, I forget what the stat was, but it's some low amount of objectively low amount of money that most of the American public has in reserve to cover something that happens other than their normal month-to-month bills. I forget if it's $500 or if it's $5,000. I hope it would be 5,000. I would hope it would be more than that, obviously. But if you break your leg or something and you don't have health insurance, and then you're faced with the bills that come from not only the initial treatment of the injury, like the emergency room, going to the hospital, and then if there's a surgery required, like it's $5,000 to get in the door.
Yeah, you're gonna hit your max out of pocket. You're right, Gabe. I had just Googled it. It says a substantial number of bankruptcy filings are linked to medical expenses, even with health insurance. Medical debt dominates in terms of reason for bankruptcy. And that was just a simple Google search. NVV, I mean, you've had recently several surgeries, but, in my experience, I mean, here's a real life experience. When Ava got sick, we paid max out of pocket every year for 5 years. And our max out of pocket, I want to say was like, as a family, was like $12,000 or $15,000 or whatever it is. And that's with like great insurance, quote unquote. So that means every month for 5 years, I've paid $1,000 a month minimum, right? And that's a lot, dude. That starts to add up. It compounds.
Sure. A lot of people don't have that.
Well, and that's just an example, right? yesterday I was at the gym and I'm talking to one of our members who's a medical, he's a doctor, but he's a general practitioner, right? So he has people come in and then one of the other members was getting into med school. We were having a discussion about how the U.S. is really good at acute care and not good at chronic care. And I don't know how this problem is going to be solved because I don't know how the money plays out. But we're really, really good at saving people's lives when like shit's hitting the fan, like really good at it. I mean, dude, the best at it. But then how do we get ahead of these chronic diseases that are actually causing more deaths than the acute disease? And I think that medical system was developed in a way that was like really focused on this acute care. But it's like these chronic ones are so much more. It's just, that's a whole nother can of worms. We were having a good conversation.
You can break out the tinfoil now, right? With like,
dude,
is the system set up to keep people sick, right? Like, does the system want people to be cured of these chronic illnesses, or is the system set up to keep people perpetually sick? I'm not saying that that's my belief system on it, but you can certainly make the argument that,
what does it mean to take out the tinfoil, by the way? I've never heard that term.
Oh, you haven't?
Like
come on,
conspiracy theorist.
Conspiracy theory.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, because I think it stems from like one of the like old conspiracy theory that you like, if you put a tinfoil hat on, like the government can't read your brain. Yeah.
Blocking like either the radiation or the signal to your brain. You're blocking
the 5G. Dude. But Jay, one thing you brought up, and I'm curious if this is kind of the takeaway, at least you were insinuating, that the back surgeon mentioned that he had never operated on a yogi. I guess, I mean, for us in the training space, like, is the insinuation maybe that he was making, I don't want to put words in your mouth that you agree or not, that yoga or like a flexibility practice is something that's going to keep you out of the surgery room, whereas like lifting weights, playing sports is? Because I would say, and obviously not a back surgeon, I don't have the experience he does, but to me, that feels like something that would be a biased take that I disagree with, and I think is potentially like putting that kind of message out there does more harm than good.
I'd be really, so him and I we're watching like a tournament, and so we're not having like super in depth.
Sure.
But one thing he clearly said, I was like, hey, so what is one thing you've just noticed over all the years? He's like, one thing, never operated on someone who's like a yogi. He just said that specifically. And I should have actually followed up that question with like, well, how like power lifter or this and that? Next time I see him actually, and I'll bring that up on the podcast. Because, and it is true, not in the sense of like the yogi, but just maintaining flexibility and mobility, I do think is becoming more and more apparent to me on the benefits it has for my back health. I mean, I've been doing the reverse hyper and I've been incorporating Nordic curls every morning, and I feel like my back feels good right now. So, but I will bring that up and I'll bring it back on the podcast because I think that's a good question.
But it can be true. I mean, his statement can be true in his experience, right?
Like, I'm sure it is. I'm not saying that
he's... can be true. And then it could also be true that people who, follow a consistent strength and conditioning routine, who don't, do too much too soon, too fast and all this kind of stuff across their journey, those people probably don't need back surgery either. But, I would imagine that if a practicing yogi for most of their lives or most of their fitness or whatever, like those people probably don't have a lot of joint issues.
Well, I mean, I would argue that, okay, maybe they're not going under the knife for back surgery, but what's that bone density look like? Like what's long-term health look like? What's, many things look like. I just think that in general, to me, putting that out without any context reinforces this misconception out there that like you're going to get hurt lifting weights, and that just avoiding the gym in general is the way to go. Cause at least, and maybe I'm alone in this, that's the association I make in my head with a yogi. A yogi is someone that's specifically doing that. So, then maybe it's just me. Like that's what I would associate a yogi with, is someone that is avoiding that type of training and really just doing, yoga, mobility, maybe a little bit of cardio. Like they're very much on this extreme. I think everything has value, right? Like there's a balance that's ideal. But I think that in general, this message that like that is the way to, super healthy joints, you're going to be good, so on and so forth, ignores an incredibly, incredibly valuable piece of exercise that is resistance training in general.
Yeah, I'll follow up with him. I mean, I didn't pick that up. I just felt like we was just having a conversation. I think what he was alluding to is like, dude, movement is medicine and we got to get moving. And that's what he was alluding to. But I'll clarify. Don't worry.
Yeah, and but also like I'm less interested in like even his take on it per se. I just conversation amongst the four of us. I think that that's an important point that at least I would bring home. As someone
that's a bridge too far. I kind of feel like that's a bridge too far, because I think that you could probably saying that like if somebody chooses to do yoga and they don't necessarily choose to do resistance training, that their quality of life it would be very drastically different from somebody who does resistance training.
How so?
Because I think that you can get a lot of strength benefits from doing things with just your body weight, holding certain poses, doing types of activities that maybe don't involve adding a lot of external load to your body. We all love doing things that involve external load added to your body. And it's part of not only what comprises our fitness program, but also things that like make us happy to go to the gym and experience those types of things as athletes. But I think that if somebody's choice is that they want to do yoga and they're not into lifting a ton of weights and like they find happiness in that and fulfillment, I think that you could build a pretty strong body that way. I'm not saying that it would be completely resilient in the way that somebody who also lifts weights would be resilient, but I don't think that like that person necessarily is like so frail that like the wind is going to blow and they're going to break a bone. I think that there's a way to do it like that for people.
There's also a lot of other confounding factors that are going to affect all of that.
Genetics play a ton of a role in this too. Yeah, nutrition plays a big role. Yeah,
nutrition, other lifestyle factors. I mean, generally, I'd say it's people that are practicing yoga on a regular basis probably live relatively healthy lifestyles, right? And probably even more so, perhaps, than people that regularly strength train and include resistance training in their lifestyle. So that'll obviously play a big factor as well, just in terms of their overall health, their longevity, their well-being. It's not just the form of exercise that you perform, it's all these other factors that will ultimately affect those things.
I'm just trying to say that all things being equal, because I agree with you. I think that very healthy people, there's like a mindfulness aspect to it that I think, has huge benefits. I think all things being equal, the value of resistance training, and obviously this comes with bias because it's what we do, is pretty far beyond the value of strictly doing yoga. Now, if you're doing yoga and doing body weight calisthenics and that stuff, I think that that's completely different. I'm talking about you are going and doing yoga and yoga alone, which I don't know. I'm not like incredibly experienced in the yoga world. I took a hot yoga class once in Long Beach with Mansky, and that was an experience.
It could be it could be so deceiving. I think that we need to dismiss this concept.
It can be very tough, man.
Bro, there are so many forms.
It was the toughest
yoga.
Different variations too, right?
There's so many. There's flow yoga. There's Bikram. There's so many different types. And dude, if you find a flow yoga session, bro, it is so hard. I used to do yoga twice a week, every week for years. And those would be some of the maintaining position. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't dismiss it.
I'm not saying yoga isn't hard. I mean, my experience with yoga, it was the hardest 90-minute thing I've ever done. Hardest 90-minute thing. That hot yoga class that I did, dude, it was honestly, and there were people.
Did you have to lay down?
Yes. I spent the last 30 minutes doing nothing but laying down. He was like,
guy wearing a Speedo?
He was wearing something close to a Speedo. I'm not saying it's
yoga are wild.
I'm definitely not saying that it's easy. And it's funny. I was just listening to a podcast. It was actually our friend Thomas DeLauer had Mike Israel on the show, and they were talking about it. And I just think that like you cannot understate the value of resistance training for long-term health, for the value that stuff that we've talked about, like grip strength long-term, bone density long-term. Like if you're trying to make sure that you're the most resilient person possible, deep into your age, resistance training is so important for so many reasons. And if you're doing something like yoga and yoga alone, you're missing out on all of those things. And yes, you might have no pain in your joints and all of these things. And I think it's great. I should mobilize a lot more than I do. I think everyone here possibly would agree. I know Jason would agree. MDB, I know you've gotten super into it, and that's awesome. I just think that there's a very, very big discrepancy in how much value you get from both of those, I wouldn't put them on an even playing field.
Man, I disagree with this take.
Then we can disagree, man.
I disagree with this take. I mean, like, if I'm just going to play devil's advocate, look at Ronnie Coleman right now. Like Ronnie,
but you're talking about the extremes. I'm not, dude. That's
so are you, right? You're talking about somebody who only does yoga their entire life.
So let me give you a hypothetical then. You have someone that only does yoga and someone that only does resistance training 3 to 4 times a week. 5 by 5 of the big 5 exercises and like a little bit of accessory work.
Perfect.
Who's going to be significantly better off long term if they're not overdoing either, and all other things being even?
What's better off? Like what
better off in like health span and lifespan, right? So talking about the things that like Atia talks about specifically, like being able to prevent all cause mortality and also just be more capable, more like, you know, being able to do stuff, being able to, you know, go on hikes with your kids long into age. I would say that the resistance training person would far fare better than the yoga only person. All things being even.
No, man. I think as the tests become more athletic or the tests involve adding things to it that are not just, you know, walking or running or moving your body or whatever, I think that the argument tips in your favor. But I think if you're just talking about living into your old age and being capable and being able to move and bend over and stand up and all this kind of stuff, I don't think that there would be like a huge difference between the two. I think if you're asking somebody to like lift heavy things or like take this bag of rocks up this mountain, of course that the resistance training person would win out.
Well, those things are important. Those things are incredibly important. I mean, we can just agree to disagree, but man, I would take the resistance training route.
I'm not saying I wouldn't take the resistance training. I would take the resistance training as well. I'm just saying that I think you can make a valid argument that like somebody can live a very long and healthy life doing a combination of yoga and calisthenics. And when you get toward, you know, your 80s or your 90s, you're starting to bean count with like, this is the same argument with like aphagy, right? Like with the like cellular regeneration. Like what are we actually talking about in terms of number of minutes or number of days that you're going to get out of improving the lifespan when you get toward that like end state where aphagy actually matters, right? It's in the term of years, it would probably be not even count. You wouldn't be able to like measure that at all.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway here is whether you're doing yoga till you're 100 or you're doing weight training till you're 100, the fact that you're doing something, you're probably going to live longer, healthier, better, period. It's the sedentary that's going to get you. It's that 100%. Never zero that's going to crush you. I'm just saying, like, if we're really pulling, because you could go deep into the matrix and the only way you'd be able to study is like that individual's genetics, how consistent they are, and other lifestyle factors. There's so many things that play into this. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I don't love the idea. I mean, dude, I'm a huge advocate for weight training, of course. I just think that they're, especially depending on the form of yoga, dude, you wouldn't necessarily have a physique that looks like someone who's weight training. You'd have a physique of someone who looks like they're doing yoga on a regular basis. So I think it depends on your goals, but both I think could really help you out. And I know that's like not a very controversial take. It's just like, it's so subjective based on so many other factors that we're talking about.
For sure. I mean, to clarify, anything is better than being sedentary. I think mobility is incredibly valuable. Something that I know is probably, you know, I've been definitely have neglected because I don't enjoy it. But, you know, I stand by my all things being even resistance training.
Let me ask you this, Gabe. Yeah. What do you think would be better? Someone who does yoga 3 to 4 days a week for their entire life. And we're talking like, you know, moderate pace yoga. Someone who does weight training the way you described it. Or what if you add an endurance athlete? If you only ran 3 to 4 days a week, who do you think, what from a longevity perspective, what do you think factors there?
Still the resistance guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Muscle is an incredible, like,
yeah, hey, as the flex, bro, you're doing it. I love it, man.
You guys are absolutely out of your minds for thinking otherwise.
I'm not out of my mind here.
Yeah, you are.
Dennis, are we out of our mind or what?
No, I think you're taking it to like an extreme. I'm like, yes, I do think you are.
No.
I 100%
I
think the answer is it depends.
Well, the answer is always it
And then
depends.
Dennis comes in here with the nuance. It depends.
That's the answer. It
It's a
depends.
useless waste of time arguing this. It definitely depends.
Yeah.
It's a useless waste of time to
both.
argue it because it's so obvious which one the right answer
No,
is.
let's fucking cut the bullshit. Go to the gym a few times a week, lift weights, use one of our training programs, stretch a few times a week, go on a couple of long runs, ride your bike, do whatever. And you're fucking set, dude. Like that's
For sure.
That's the best. That's the best. To
Yep,
combine
do all
all
three.
three.
That's the best. That's it. That's the secret sauce right there, man. I'm telling you. Hey, I saw that you wrote a note here, MDV. Could you go a month without coffee? The answer is no. And the answer is why not? Why would anybody
Can you
choose
do
to
it?
go a month without coffee? I mean, I'd rather go a month without
Anything.
anything other than that. Like,
They almost reached deep into the bucket there.
I was going to say food, and I was like, no, it's stupid.
Oh,
I
I
can't
thought you
do
were about to say like some sort of physical intimacy.
No. I mean, maybe.
That's a toss up with coffee for me for sure.
Oh man,
That'd be a
Yeah,
tough
dude.
one. I've never done it. I've never done longer than a few days. And since I started drinking coffee when I was like 17 or like 18, like my first year of college, I remember like I started off drinking coffee with some milk and a little bit of sweetener. And then I very quickly transitioned to just black coffee. And I think ever since that time, I've had at least 1 cup of coffee a day most days of my life.
Same.
Yeah.
And I think
I mean,
there's pretty good evidence that like the more you drink, the
more you have to
longer
drink?
you live. There's studies associating like the amount of coffee that you consume per day with like increased longevity and a bunch of increased health markers. I mean, there's going to be an extreme limit, of course, at some point. But I remember reading something fairly recently where it was like up to like 4 or 5 cups a day or something like that had like these increased health benefits over just like 1 or 2 cups a day. So yeah, coffee drinkers live longer than non-coffee drinkers.
I mean, according to Google AI, studies suggest that moderate coffee consumption may be associated with longer lifespan and reduced risk of certain chronic diseases, potentially adding years to your life. The way that those things are described, you could probably find 50 studies that say they're going to help you and
Exact
50
opposite.
studies that say the complete opposite.
For sure.
But it is definitely, when you talk about like a crutch, we say like get rid of the crutch. I would definitely say that coffee is one of my crutches. It's something that I have a habit of using. Probably the only thing, actually. I mean, aside from like working out and all the other stuff that I do, but I just don't want to get rid of it. I
Man,
enjoy
if
it.
that's your
too
worst
much.
vice, I'd say you're doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing fine. It's like
It's not worth giving up.
no. Someone
it's
out
too
there is gonna be like,
enjoyable, man.
yeah, someone
Yeah,
out
it's the
there's gonna be
best.
like, dude, if you can't give up coffee, you don't have discipline. It's like, you know what? Okay, fine. I don't have discipline in that regard. I just like it too much. It's too much of a habit. And like as of lately, man, it's like it's the first. I drink it and I train, and it feels great, and that's what I want to do every day. And that's it.
Just a compelling reason, really, to cut it out, I guess. Right?
Well,
Everything
the compelling
else-
reason would be that that it's a crutch, and that the compelling reason for me, the only one that like really stands, health benefits, whatever, is that if this is something you feel like you quote unquote have to do, then you should remove it so it doesn't control you in that way.
Right.
I would say the most compelling reason would to at least look at this as something that might be impacting you would be if you're drinking far too much coffee and not really consuming any other liquids, and you look at your overall kind of like temperature level, your stress level, your reactivity, and then maybe even into the evening, if you can't find yourself winding down or deregulate or like kind of slowing down to be able to sleep well. I think looking at your caffeine consumption, how late you're drinking it, how much you're drinking of it, whether you're pairing it with any sort of food to, digest it along at the same time, that would be something to look into.
Yeah, man. If it's
sure.
like you can't function without it, like you're using it as your sole source of energy because you're not sleeping properly, you're not fueling yourself properly, you're not hydrating properly, and you like need the coffee just to function on a daily basis, that's problematic. Then you need to look at some of the more foundational stuff that's missing that you're trying to replace by just consuming enormous amounts of caffeine throughout the day. But that's
Dennis,
a different
can you
situation.
say coffee again really quickly for me?
Coffee.
Coffee. There we go.
Cool.
That's how you used to say it too. Get out of here.
Coffee.
All you guys are East Coast guys, man.
Yeah, that's how you used to say it too. You too.
I still say it like that sometimes, man.
Nice.
One thing that I changed with coffee that at least for me was super helpful from like digestion improved, and I think overall energy levels definitely improved too, especially with getting less sleep with the kids over the last 2 years, has been just not having it be the first thing that I have as soon as I wake up. And I can't remember the podcast that I heard this on and the explanation, but essentially it was like the thing that coffee blocks that makes you feel alert and awake is something that you should let your body naturally clear out a little bit in the morning for a couple of hours, because otherwise you're not clearing it out. You're just blocking. I think it's adenosine. And if you're just blocking it, then when the caffeine kind of wears out, that's where you need like a second cup and then a third cup. You're basically like kicking the can down the road. Whereas if you give yourself at least 2 hours after waking to let your body naturally go through the process of clearing that adenosine, you can have your coffee, you'll be alert, you enjoy that experience, but then you're not just, waiting for the point where the caffeine wears out and you get that like drowsy feeling. So that was helpful for me.
Yeah,
I know
that
that
definitely works.
Yeah.
I saw conflicting research on that. To go back to Jason's point, there's conflicting research on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But what there's not conflicting research on is, do you remember when butter coffee like took over
Oh yeah.
the whole fitness world?
Everyone.
And everybody
But that
was
seemed
just
to
like,
go away, right?
yeah, it did. I mean, there was like the MCT trend, and then it was the butter coffee, the bulletproof coffee, people scooping like 2 tablespoons of Irish butter into their coffee and then whipping it up in the morning.
It gave you a sense of like fullness and like, cause Ashley, for example, so here's a real life example. Like I have family members who had consumed quite a bit of coffee with like sugars and stuff like that in it. And I suggested to them years ago, like, hey, instead of throwing a bunch of sugar in there, try a little bit of heavy cream. It gives a nice, like decadent, rich feeling and might be a good substitute. You do you. And sure enough, that's really worked for a lot of people. Like Ashley likes her coffee with some heavy cream in it, for example. And that, I think, the whole butter thing, I think kind of stemmed some people to look at their coffee a little bit differently instead of putting a bunch of sugar and trying more fat sources like heavy cream. So for that, I think it did some good.
I think it was all around the same time that like paleo was very, very heavy in especially the functional training CrossFit community. And a lot of people were cutting out dairy or, even though butter is kind of like in that dairy category, but it became, that high fat, it was that high fat, high protein trend diet at the time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in either case, back to the whole, like, don't drink coffee right when you wake up. For me, I mean, dude, for a long time now, I wake up early for me, not early for Gabe. And then, I have just a little bit of coffee, like a little bit, like a quarter of a cup. And then I go and I train super hard. And then I come back and I'll finish my coffee. And that's worked for me. So I think everybody's just got to figure out what works for them. But for me, it's more of just like the flavor, more so than like some like kick that I'm going to get from it. Maybe if I'm really looking for like a fix, I'll go to Phil's and get like a light roast and I know it's going to put me on the moon. But in general, coffee doesn't do much for me other than just the flavor of it.
Definitely train moderately hard, not super, super hard, and then come back and finish your coffee.
Oh, wait, are you saying that I don't have intensity anymore?
Dude, RP7 all the time.
Dude. Oh, okay. So I did the open workout yesterday, and according to Zach Rains, I exceeded his expectations. And so I still got something there, but I'll give you a little bit of credit. It isn't like the RPE 10 Jason that would like be laying on the ground for like an hour afterwards because I cared so much about getting a score, but I still went fast. I still worked hard. It was like an RP 9.2.
One thing that I think is worth clarifying, especially now, because to MDV's point, you can absolutely find a study that supports anything that you want it to support. Like the way that I approach this stuff is like, I find it interesting if something says that it potentially has an effect. If you do this, it'll help with this. And then I think it's always worth trying if it's something that you want to change. So like Jason, for your example, like if you're drinking coffee as soon as you wake up and you enjoy it, your energy's good throughout the day, you have a good workout, like you have zero reason to change that. For me, it was, I did feel like, noon came around and I was like, man, like I get hit by like a freight train of tired because I wouldn't get a good night's sleep. I'd have coffee as soon as I woke up. So for me, it was something that I wanted to improve. So it's worth changing. And I think that that's how I would recommend people approaching all of this stuff, because you'll go on Instagram and you'll see 5 different people citing a study, citing 2 studies, 3 studies that says one thing, and then you'll keep scrolling, you'll see someone that says do the other. And I think it's not worth changing. Like, don't try and fix something that isn't broken. But if something isn't working for you, I think it's your responsibility to at least try and change the thing that might improve it. Give it a real chance. I say this all the time. Like, the other thing is, like, people will be like, well, I tried it for 2 days and didn't feel a difference. Well, guess what? You're not gonna feel anything in 2 days. Like, give it a real shot, whether that's cutting out gluten or cutting out a thing or whatever. Does that mean that everyone has to cut these things out or like do these behavioral changes? No. But if you're not feeling your best and you potentially think that there might be a reason, I think that, like, at the end of the day, you can run your 1-of-1 experiment and it becomes pretty clear cut if a change makes you feel better or doesn't. And then you can either keep it or drop it. But I think that that's a good way to approach it, because it's so true. You can, on Google right now, like, does coffee boost lifespan? And you'll get 10 studies that say, does coffee make that you're going to die sooner? You'll find another 10 studies. Like, you also just search for what you're searching for and you'll find it. So that's kind of how I approach it and how I recommend people look at it. So
yeah, the 1-of-1 study is like the only one that really matters.
100%.
It's the only one.
And only changing one variable at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an issue I know it's an issue for me sometimes too. Like, you get really excited at certain times of the year, or like certain moments, or like
change
you're talking
everything
to somebody, you get super fired up. You're like, wow, Gabe's doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then you change everything and you're like, wow, I don't know what worked, what didn't work, but like changing one thing at a time and giving it a little bit of room to like breathe, I think is really important.
Hey, I just want to say that, Gabe, you're going to be here in a couple of days for Ava's Kitchen, and I'm going to show you what RP10 looks like on our flex workout.
Dude, I hope so, man. It's funny.
I'm going to show you what full fatigue looks like.
Dude, as we were doing the challenge of the week with barbell curls at 95 pounds, I couldn't help but remember.
Damn it.
He didn't do it. Classic. I couldn't help but remember you doing bent over rows with 95 pounds. And I chuckled to myself as I was like 2 reps in.
Oh, please, dude. Oh, man, I forgot about that.
Do it right now.
Forget about that.
Do it right now. You got a barbell in there?
No, I don't have.
Do it live.
No, I don't have a barbell.
Go to the garage
in here.
really quick.
I really wish I had a barbell in here right now. I would just. Damn it. No, I don't have one. Maybe I'll see if Ashley.
Who was that? That was Rob Orlando, who used to have was it a 405-pound barbell always loaded in the gym, and every time he walked by it, he would just lift it up and put it down?
Yeah, it was 500 pounds.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
It was a 500-pound barbell. Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Back in the day, there were some people doing wild stuff, man.
Dude, I saw some guy Rogue put up this guy doing like a overhead hold and lifting a kettlebell. It was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, just a phenomenal feat of strength. I mean, I can't even fathom some of the stuff that you see right now. And it's like, all right, like that was back then. Now I just feel like, 405 to me sounds pretty heavy. I'm good with that. 500 pounds, no thank you on deadlift. I don't need to do that.
400 pounds is very heavy. 225 is very heavy. I think it's all relative, right?
Yeah, I mean, the open workout was 225, and that was pretty simple. Those weights were not crazy. It was just muscle stamina that got me in, and speed. Did you guys, I don't know if you guys saw this, but did you guys see this video of Colton Mertens? Do you guys know who that is?
Dude,
he's like
I know of him.
He's like a high level CrossFit Games athlete. Dude, this guy was doing wall walks. So I was doing my wall walks and I thought I was doing them pretty well. Like, my time was 14 minutes. It was like, I don't know. I don't even know how it compared. I felt like I went fast. Dude, Colton got like 10 minutes, and his wall walks, he like, did you guys see? I don't know if you guys saw this, but like, he'll walk him out. He like flopped on the ground and then went right back up. It was insane. Zach showed me the video. I haven't been keeping up much with the open, but that was pretty wild.
Touch and go wall walks.
I found it.
They were like bouncing. They were like dynamic wall walks.
Right. I didn't see it.
I'm like not invested in the CrossFit season at all, but I've just seen clips, and watching Colton Mertens do the open workouts is like worth the watch. It's insane. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense how he just doesn't get, he gets like faster. And granted, he's got like the ideal dimensions for all of these movements. He's very short, but, yeah, super impressive athlete. Incredibly impressive athlete.
Did he win all 3 workouts?
He won 2 and got second in the 3rd.
Oh, wow.
Oh, is that right?
He almost swept the open.
But did he compete? Now I'm really curious if he competed did he compete at the games last year?
Like he didn't make it.
I don't think he made it, right?
Who won the games last year? It was James Sprague, right?
James Sprague, yeah. Yeah, James Sprague.
So he was
we saw Tia set a world record at High Rocks.
Yeah, her and her
pro doubles.
Pro with one of her girlfriends.
Dude.
Which is pretty remarkable to think about because they crushed a Gabe by like a minute, didn't they?
I don't know by how much to be honest, but I know that they broke it, and they beat the singles winner, or the singles world record holder was on another team, and they beat them. Yeah, it's wild.
Jay, if you had to pick 2 people from the CrossFit sphere, 2 legends from the CrossFit sphere to be a male partners double to go and break a world record at High Rocks, what would the team be? Do you think it would be like Fikowski and Vellner? Would it be Froning?
You gotta find good runners.
I mean,
right?
I think Fikowski's probably on there for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Now that I think about it, like it would have to be someone who could run really well because it's so heavily dependent on that.
What was the Australian guy's name?
Oh, you know who would have done really good is Garrett
Gerard?
Fisher would have done. Dude, Garrett Fisher would have crushed that. He was an excellent runner.
He was a really good runner. Yeah,
Who was the guy?
back in the Hinshaw days.
I think he was
You're
from
talking about
Australia.
Ricky Garrard?
No, back when like Jay used to compete. You know, the old days.
Was he a running specialist? There was a
Chad
running.
McKay?
Rob something? I think he won like the 333. He was like, all the running events, he would just dominate. He was kind of like an unassuming guy. He wasn't like, super impressive and anything else, but I felt like his name was like Rob something, maybe.
I do remember that there was a run specialist who made it to the game.
He used to fly, on the running stuff.
Let's see what AI says. Who are the best runners in CrossFit Games history? Let's think.
Oh, let's go.
Jason Khalipa first.
Dude,
I think he was
imagine.
Australian. I might be making that up.
We don't have accurate data on who is the top, but we do have accurate data on who is the worst.
Dude, you won't believe it, but literally Jason Khalipa is the first name that came up.
Stop it.
Dude,
The best runner in CrossFit
Wasn't
Games
it
history?
Forte?
Stop
Wasn't his
it.
last name
Stop it.
Forte?
it was Forte. Yes.
Yeah.
Rob
Yes.
Forte.
Rob
Yes.
Forte. Yeah.
Right? Wasn't he a really good runner?
Hey, Gabe, you're joking, right?
I'm not joking. I'll send this to you after.
Wait, hang on. You AI searched who the best runner in CrossFit history was, and my name came up?
That's right.
Ooh, that's my
Did you
claim
get
to fame.
Did you
That
get fifth?
and asking for Lion King on the row.
Did you get 5th place in the 333?
I don't think so. I thought I got like 17th place.
Goes to show you.
I came off the double unders and the row first by a landslide. I was in first by whatever, and then I got passed up. You know, the crazy thing about that event was it started off with 300 double unders, 3,000 meter row, and then 3 mile run. I got onto the run with the lead. I got passed up by 16 people, and I was running a 6-minute mile pace, and I got passed up by 16 people. Isn't that wild to think about?
I was right behind you on the row. I was judging Craig Kenny, who was right next to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember looking at your guys' monitors like, how the hell are they doing this for 3,000 meters? They were holding like a 137 the whole time. I was like, who are these people? Freaks. And they just ripped off 300 straight double unders like it was nothing. And then just took off. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Triple
These
threes.
mutants.
That was a good event. That was a cool event. We'll see what happens with the games.
He kind of imploded in that event,
He did.
right?
Yeah, he did. And then he ended up coming
famously.
back.
Stopped running. He was walking.
Yeah, he came back. But CrossFit's for sale. So we'll see what happens there. That's a hot take. We'll see what I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
I know three groups that are interested. So we'll see which ones come out on top. Maybe it won't even be any of those, I don't know.
Jay's got the inside scoop.
The inside track. Yeah.
Yeah. I got the
Inside baseball.
inside scoop on the CrossFit stuff, but yeah, it's all good.
More change, huh? It's never good, right?
I think in this case, it's what's necessary.
Yeah.
I think that, when they sold, it was obviously kind of like a quick sale. Berkshire brings it up. Berkshire and the people, they say, hey, we're gonna hold on to this thing for a long time, but that's just not their MO, right? They're private equity. They're trying to buy something, a distressed asset, or even not distressed, just whatever it is, and they're trying to get returns in 3 to 7 years. I think whoever buys this thing is going to have to really look at it as a really long-term hold. Spend the next 3 years kind of doing some damage control, revitalizing things, and then kind of boom it for the next 20 years to come. But we'll see.
One interesting topic that has a lot of layers to it. A lot of layers to this discussion.
Oh, the one that we're talking about right now? Oh
yeah, for sure, man.
Oh yeah,
for sure. You're buying an asset that the brand name has so much baggage attached to it right now. Just overall across the years, I think in terms of just public perception and a lot of probably things going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about unless you're really deep behind the scenes. So it'll be interesting for sure. And it looks like, Glassman's out there making a play with Metfix and, he's doing a new affiliate model there and super interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Our friend Chris Cooper had a good write-up on.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, on how he would change it, and I agree with him. I think that a lot of essentially, what he was saying is that a big mistake CrossFit always had, and obviously this has his bias because it's what Two Brain does, but that CrossFit never taught gym owners how to effectively run a business, and that has kind of led to where they are now. But I tend to agree with I think that a lot of these efforts to, revitalize the brand or bring the brand back up from all these misconceptions. I think that trying to do that from the top down, whether that's the content that CrossFit's putting out or whatever, I don't think is the way to go. I think that it needs to be a much slower grassroots effort where the gyms that are doing well need to really be elevated, and it needs to happen just more word of mouth from what's happening at the affiliate level. And he brought up specifically the fact that, this large group class model just doesn't work, and the fact that private training and small groups is the way to go. And I mean, super uneducated on this, but I tend to agree with him. And I know Chris is a super smart guy. So that was an interesting read. And I think that he has a good take on, what could potentially be the solution, but man, who knows? Either way, it's going to be a long battle to,
when whoever takes
move
over
the battleship here.
Dude, I was talking to a group the other day and, we were just having conversations about this. Whoever takes over as CEO, if it isn't Don, right? Don could remain as CEO of CrossFit, but dude, whoever takes it over, whoever takes that role, they need to be mentally prepared to take on so much that it's exhausting to even think about, and that's unfortunate, right? That one of the main factors why someone wouldn't want to take over the CEO role is because literally they're going to be getting threats every day. That's very unfortunate that it's gotten to that point, because people can't detach the brand from the methodology to the business to whatever. It's just this thing that they really feel connected to. So I wish them all the best of luck. I will support the best I can. That's pretty much the role I'm taking right now, is I'll be on the back end supporting, but I will not be a front end guy. I just want to be on the back end helping, because I want to see it do well. Just, yeah, that's where I'm at.
You could make an argument though also that what made CrossFit so great was the fact that it was a grassroots fitness movement. It was a little rough around the edges. It brought in and attracted a certain type of person into it and bonded those people together like glue. Nothing else bonded people together in a really long time. And we all experienced that. We all got into CrossFit at a phase when it was grassroots. It was a little rough and tumble. And there was a way for gyms to create really successful community-based fitness environments. And we all, at one point of our lives, paid or got into the business to be a part of that. And I think that there's a valid argument on the side over there that like you could have kept the business and the brand looking and feeling a little bit more like that and allowed certain gyms to scale up, scale down, do whatever. But if you get too far away from what made it so viral in the start, like I think that there's validity there that like maybe the return to that is what makes it successful. Maybe, continuing down that path of forging elite fitness, because like if you try to be,
I think that ship's
try to be for everybody, you're going to be for nobody.
Yes.
I think that ship kind of sailed though. But
I don't think so, Jay. I don't think so. I think
here's the reason why I think it might have sailed is that it became so popularized that you're no longer like this fringe kind of like forging elite fitness, like, anti-Globo gym, because now the Globo gym is the functional gym. So it loses that like kind of like that so I agree with you. Like the way it started, it's just, isn't there a good debate that it just got so big that now like you used to be like the underdog, right? But now you're kind of like at the same playing field. So it doesn't come off the same way. That's my perception.
I think the mistake would be to try to be on that same type of height, that same type of feel as a Globo gym. I don't think that ultimately is the value. And Dennis, like, you've obviously run a very successful CrossFit affiliate for a very long time, CrossFit Garden City. I remember when you started, across the street from the Lucky Duck in, GC, in a very small, like kind of narrow community. I mean, the vibes in there must have been fantastic. And now you have a really fantastic, much bigger gym. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to be able to recreate what it was back then, I feel like now would be almost impossible. It's just like
tough.
Yeah, I mean, the whether it's the growth, the fact that it's become more mainstream, the type of people that have kind of come and gone over the years that probably won't come back and ever do it again for whatever reasons. I agree with you that should be the goal of the organization, is to try to get back to their roots and try to recreate that. But I just don't think it's possible. I just think the ship has sailed, and I don't think you can bring it back. And we try to hold on to some of that magic, day in and day out with our community. And a lot of the people that are at our gym have been with us since those days. They've been with us 10 plus years, and they kind of, it's pretty common that you'll hear them kind of like yearning for the old days, like the way things used to be, and we do our best to continue to instill a lot of that stuff in the workouts, how we train, just the community. But times have changed. Things are just different. There's just no way to get back to the way things used to be, I don't think.
MDB, to your point though, from like the brand, I do think, and I've seen other people say this isn't like an original take by me, but I agree that starting to highlight like, the older lady or the older gentleman and all that, I think was a misstep. I think that those are feel good stories, but it diluted who CrossFit was for. Like the brand should have always just stayed for the shirtless jacked guys, like 100%.
Well, they took a serious step, like far, when they did like those around the couches with the water jugs. For sure, that was like a very far expression.
But even more recently, right? Like more recently, they keep, it's always the story of like, the person that's doing it at 90 and kind of just started, and like at the end of the day, like, that's a story that, again, is, a conversation we have all the time, Jay. Like, it's going to get a lot of likes. It's going to get a lot of shares. It invokes a lot of like, oh, this is cool. It's a feel good story, but it's not going to make you, that's something I want to be a part of. Right. Because what people want to be a part of is like that old, like shirtless, forging elite fitness, like the aspirational stuff. And that's where I think that like, if you're talking about the world of like marketing and social media too, like the vanity metrics can become very, very, you can get your eye off the prize because you're like, oh, look at this. Like people love this story. Yeah, they love the story, but are they turning into raving fans? I think the proof's in the pudding, man. And like CrossFit's a good, I think, cautionary tale of you go from being for this very, very selective group that loves you and is going to go through brick walls for you and try and be everything for everyone. And it never leads to success. It just leads to fizzle out. And the people that were your fans now don't have the same reason to be your fans. And everyone else just kind of like, oh, that's cool. But like, it's not cool enough for me to want to be involved. And I think it's a really important lesson that one can learn looking back on it for sure.
Mm. I think more than anything else, what made CrossFit special for me was not necessarily like the competitive side of it. There was a time that I got hooked into the competitive side of it a little bit and got like drawn in and the team aspect of it. But even that, it was more so of like the bonds that were formed by doing difficult workouts with people who were like me. Like that was what made showing up to the gym at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning to do like 2 workouts with a bunch of people together and have the best time and then go out to breakfast afterwards and like talk about the workouts and talk about the training. Like that's what made CrossFit special for me. And I think it made it special for a lot of people like that too. And I think that like once the idea of like, getting away from like that message and getting too far from that became the way that the brand went, especially so deep into sport and like highlighting the CrossFit Games so much. I think that a lot of people started to look at it as like, no, this is not necessarily for me. But
whoever takes over has some work to do. Obviously, I mean, again, I come with my own bias and background and what I think is going to happen. But one thing is for sure, and what we're doing at Train Hard, yes, I do it here locally at the men's club for sure. But the expression that I'm most excited for is that when this is releasing in like, I don't know, a couple weeks, our new app will just be either right around the corner or just have been released. And I'm so excited to get back to some of the roots of community. We have it here at our gyms for sure. And I have it here at the men's club for sure. I receive a lot of that. But how do we now roll that out to as many people as possible? And I think that the community function from the Train Hard app, we are going to be in there on a regular basis, really trying to instill this idea of like leveling up. And I think that it's not going to be the same as doing it in person, but it'll be a damn near close second. And that's what I'm very excited about, what we have going on at Train Hard and the impact we could have on as many people to train, protect, and provide, and utilizing that as a anchor in the app. So make sure that if you haven't already, check the podcast show notes for our app, because it is absolutely the most badass tool ever to get you in great shape and connect you with like-minded people.
There's no yoga track in the app, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Too soon. Yeah, no yoga track in the app, but a lot of really, really great workouts, especially like the sandbag workouts, but more so Train Hard Daily Flex, badass workouts you guys are going to absolutely love. Jump into the community section, watch the daily videos, track your progress through progress photos, look at your streaks. I mean, if you're not on it and you're listening to this show, like you got to go download this app. Are we talking about yeah.
And just I'll add to that because I started testing the 6-week flex cycle that's going to be in there. And Dennis, you can speak to this. It's a lot of the 6, 12, 25. Oh, dude, I did it for chest. I did it for chest on Monday. And it's chef's kiss, that like combination, man. It's so good and so time efficient.
What is it? The 6, 12, 25? I feel like I did one of those recently, right? Yeah. So, and this will be like the main portion of how we hit body parts in this cycle. And it's based off of what we talked about last episode, where like the 3 things that you want for hypertrophy are mechanical tension. That's what you get with like the heavy 6. Then you take like 10, 50 seconds rest, or you're going right into it. You do 12 reps. Hitting the same muscle group. So that's going to hit your muscle damage. That's the rep range for that. And then you go right into 25 reps. So for example, for chest, I did incline dumbbell bench. It's barbell bench on the app, but I've been really enjoying dumbbells. So you go heavy, you do 6. Then you go right into weighted dips for 12. That's your muscle damage. And then you go much lighter dumbbell, like pronating, 25 reps. And that's going to be your metabolic stress. And you're hitting all 3 of those prerequisites for hypertrophy in one like super triset. Then you take a nice long rest, 3 to 4 minutes, because you're going to need it. And you do that like 2-3 times. And dude, you are ready to go. Dude, the
biggest pump on the planet.
the odds of Jason taking a 3 or 4 minute rest are 0%. 0.
75 seconds.
Even talking about it right now, if we put a stopwatch on him to do the set and then do the next set 4 minutes later, I would bet like $100. Like we're getting to that set sooner.
Dude,
well, that's what I'm excited about.
Hang on. You're starting here and finishing here. I know we've had this debate 50 times.
What?
On the pronated dumbbell bench. You're not transitioning them.
No, so it's the ones here are pronating. So then you're starting neutral and you're finishing pronating.
Pronating versus pronated.
That's right.
Dude, I swear. Okay. So I got to go look at the movement library, make sure I do those right. But there's pronated versus pronating.
That's right.
Roger that.
Twist at the end.
Roger that.
But anyway, that's my added plug for the new app is I just got reminded how much I love that rep scheme. And that's what we're going to be focusing on for those 6 weeks that show up specifically in the flex track that's on that app with really clear movement demos, really easy way to track your weights week over week, which is important for flex, not so much for TH daily for force, but that functionality is in there. So I'm super excited. I'm fired up.
Keep in mind, right? Force track transition to train hard daily. Train hard daily is going to be a 6-day week option. You could do the 3 days of it. You could do 5 days of it. You pick the days that work well for you and what your goals are. For me, I'll probably be following that 5 to 6 days a week, every single week. And then I'll be adding in jujitsu and other stuff on top of that. I know that we had the barbell curl. I want to apologize in advance. I completely forgot about it. Like, that's just a miss. It wasn't even like one of those ones like, oh, dude, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to like accidentally forget about it. In this case, I actually really wanted to try it. So we should talk about it though, and then we can kind of close this thing out.
Well, I didn't. I attempted to do it, and it was too much for me to stand and try to swing curl a 95-pound barbell up to my chest right now because of the ankle. But I did a max set of very strict chin-ups, and I got 22 reps.
That's legit.
That was my... I mean, I've been doing a lot of calisthenics.
Dude, 22 is a lot.
That's why, the calisthenic king over here. We should just.
I've done 100 at least 100 push-ups a day since February 1st, and then I've done at least 100 squats, 100 midline, 50 strict chin-ups or strict pull-ups a day since March 1st. Adding all that up, just as like daily movement, just to get it done, check the box, and I really enjoy it. I love that stuff. I know Gabe's not in that boat, but that stuff really like scratches my itch.
What's not in my boat?
Like the daily movement kind of like accumulation type of stuff.
No, that's not in my boat either as much.
I love that stuff.
No, I don't like
centered. Keeps me on the straight line, straight and narrow.
I mean, but the thing is like, for me, it's like just similar to like what I get out of running, I feel like.
For sure.
That's pretty much the same thing. It's just like, literally it's accumulating minutes and miles and aerobic capacity. It's just a different way to approach it, but I wouldn't say I'm not into that stuff. I'm just doing plenty of chest. I don't need the push-ups.
How many curls you get, Gabe? How many curls you get?
Yeah. How many did you get?
How many curls?
I got 4. And I
could definitely get 4.
And I would say like three and a half, maybe. Like 4 is being generous for sure.
Yeah, it was hard to stay strict.
Yeah.
What about you, Bennett?
I got 9.
Obnoxious.
I could have gotten 10. The 9th one, my butt came away from the wall, and I was like, and so I didn't do it. I didn't attempt another one.
Given like what Dennis's like standard of strict probably was, I'm gonna reassess my score to 2.
Mine were pretty tight. I'll send in the video.
I'm sure.
All right, I'm gonna give it a shot today.
You can get 10.
I'm just gonna message you guys. I don't know, dude. Bro, 95 pounds is a lot of weight to curl.
Yeah.
I did curls this morning, but not with 95 pounds. I should have I forgot. So, wow.
Get 10, Jay. Come on. Do it.
I'm going to get 10.
Our fearless leader.
Dude, you know what we're all about, man? We're all about that new train hard. I'm telling you, dude, I'm so excited. Like, if you can't hear it in my voice, if you're listening to this podcast, you can't see my face. And you have not gone on. Like, if you've been listening to podcasts for like years, you're like, dude, I like these guys. They got, whatever. And you have not tried our training programs, there's no better time than right now to do it. No better time. Like, our ebooks were cool. Our previous app was good. Like, it was good. Everything was good. This takes it up a whole different notch. Everybody that I'm showing it to has been super, like, just excited about how much it is a significant change from our current products, current app, current service. that's going to really make an impact. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because it's going to connect the dots between where I think people are at and where they need to get to. And this is the training programs and the community that are going to help you get there. So make sure, check out the podcast show notes, because we're in this thing and we need you to be a part of the community. So if you're an early adopter of the app, go in there, dude. Start letting us know. Start commenting. Leave a comment on this podcast. I've gotten some good ones through Spotify recently when Gabe and I were riffing back and forth about Provide, which was really great to hear. So leave us a comment there. Jump on the app. Keep training hard. And that's all I got, guys. You guys, that's it.
There we go. Strong.
Until next week, keep training hard. Hope your family's doing well, and I'll see you again.
Hell yeah.